Today we have another special guest. You guys may or may not know him. He is an author, Aaron Young. He is the chairman of Laughlin Associates and a good friend of mine, another board of advisors member. So, Aaron, appreciate you taking the time out um, and being here with us.
Yeah, it's great to be with you, Jake. And for whomever's listening, I love your content. I follow it regularly, and our personal relationship's one thing, but you as a teacher has been really valuable in this crypto space. So thank you for that.
Appreciate that, man. Yeah, I try to, put things out in a simple way and make it, you know, as easy to get as much as you can from a little, or it's all, there's a lot going on, and sometimes it's hard to sift through everything that's going on. I try to make it simple for people.
Yeah. Thanks for synthesizing that for us.
Yeah. Um, well, so maybe a little background on yourself would be helpful for people that, again, may not know who you are, and maybe kind of walk us through the journey of how you came to the position that you're in.
Sure. Started my first company with a payroll with 3 employees. Well, first was 2 employees, then I went to 4 employees, um, including me. When I was 19, I was I don't know, either the first or second recycling business in Portland, Oregon, a very
Oh, wow.
green state. Um, I met a cute girl. I wanted to get married. I thought I don't want to be schlepping around dirty old newspapers and stuff all day. So I sold the company and started another company, which was one of the first cellular phone dealers in the Northwest. That was 1986. Um,
Crushed it.
in, I did that for a while. Then in 1993, the industry changed, and I closed down or sold parts of the company in late '92. In '93, I got recruited by a company that was about 350 offices worldwide. Got recruited to be their VP of sales. So I was 29 at the time. While I was VP of sales, we went public on Nasdaq, and I got to benefit from that.
That's great.
Stayed there 3.5 years and wanted to get back to be in charge of my own life again. Because not only was I an employee, even though I was an officer, I was an employee, but it was a public company, which, there's tremendous amounts of scrutiny. Anybody that's in a regulated industry knows you're not really free. You're free up to certain boundaries. So I did that for 3.5 years, left, took the money I'd made in stock, started buying companies. That's the short version. So from 1997 to now, I've been buying companies. Along the way, I got called by a trust attorney that we had done other work with, who asked me if I wanted to buy Laughlin Associates. And so we did.
Yeah.
And that was that.
Yeah.
And I own a bunch of other things. I'm an owner in a bunch of companies, but Laughlin is a great business that provides fundamentally critical uh, services to business owners. And the things that we do are the most boring, but probably most critical things that people need so that they can go out and play in the big world, but not
Miserable.
be at risk.
Yeah.
So we want everybody to be safe and happy and healthy. We'll do the grunt work in the background. You guys go out and be famous, do cool things, build skyscrapers, conquer the next mountain, and we'll just make sure that you've got the supplies you need to stay well and do your thing. We're the launch pad for your rocket, basically.
The protections you want, right? So, you guys do a lot of, paralegal work and administrative work for people that form corporations and trusts, both in Nevada, Wyoming, South Dakota, a couple different jurisdictions here in the US. Uh,
All 50 states. We're all 50 states.
50 states, okay. So not just specific to those, but
We're the original Nevada. We're the first one. We're the OG Nevada Incorporator from 1972. Um, when we bought the company, we were in Nevada and Wyoming, and I said we need to do all 50 states because if the assembly in Carson City changes its mind on all these cool laws, we're out of business.
right.
So in 2001, I took us to all 50 states, and then we just started adding on that, because the truth is Nevada and Wyoming are wildly powerful in certain circumstances, but they're not a magic wand for anybody doing business. If you're doing business in North Carolina and your office is there, you're doing your work there, you're on your phone, your bank, everything's there. To say you're a Nevada company doesn't, unless you go and register as a foreign corporation doing business in North Carolina, you're out of whack with the tax structure.
Yeah.
So if you want to get the benefits of the legal and tax benefits, you just have to follow all the rules. And if you follow the rules, you're fine. And if they can find a chink in your armor and they want you, they will go right through the chink.
Yeah. Well, that's the corporate veil, right? And that's the benefit of structuring things in those jurisdictions is, you know, if that is done correctly, then maybe it's just a charging order that somebody can put against you. They can't actually pierce the corporate veil and come after the asset. So the way that you guys structure things and make sure that it's done, it almost sets things up kind of like a trust for people utilizing the well. And when I say that, you don't get the probate protection, and there's some other things there. But as far as creditor protection, um, you're going to get a lot of those benefits that you would derive from a trust in one of those jurisdictions. Also, is that accurate?
It's yes. Let me give you a qualified yes. So, of course, a trust is a contract, right? It's an agreement. It's not a business entity. So, what people that are just getting started are going to form their first LLC or their S corp or whatever they're going to do, and it's going to be them as the shareholder or the member, and there's some protection in that. And if you're in Nevada or Wyoming and you're really legitimately in Nevada and Wyoming and you don't have to register in another state, then nobody knows who owns it, which gives you that buffer. The So they don't come after you. Now, you mentioned the corporate veil. If the corporate veil, which I would say 95% of the companies out there, their corporate veil is not intact. And it's not because the people are trying to do anything wrong, it's because they don't know what they're supposed to do.
I don't know the rules.
So once they learn it and they see how easy it is to do it, then they say, "Oh, well, I'll do that." When we have a good solid corporate veil and we have privacy like Nevada and Wyoming, that's very valuable. Um, we can go further if there's enough value in your activities, and with what you guys do, with being in the front of the wave. You're out on the front. You're being pushed by history right now. You're in the midst of a fundamental change in how we function as a world society. So this is a freaking cool time to be alive. Most people are not paying attention to it, but you and your people are going to get stupid wealthy because you're paying attention. So if we build up enough wealth, then we want to use a trust, and usually an irrevocable trust, to own all those assets. And I can control them, but I can legally say in a court that I don't own them because they're in the irrevocable trust. I moved them over there. Many entrepreneurs are freaked out to let their grip off of anything, and they don't trust very well. People, I believe, in your world, Jake, who have believed in this, and maybe for years, the sort of mythology that was created around crypto and what it could be and how it could overtake fiat currencies, and we can do it better. And there had to be a lot of people that were believing that the world could shift. And those people that live in that state of curiosity and hope for something better, they're not going to be as afraid to go, I'm going to do something that maybe all my neighbors wouldn't do, but I'm going to do it because I see there's an advantage.
Right.
And I'm actually in more control, not less control. And this wealth that I've no different than using, what do you call it, a cold wallet? Is that the right name? Like a
Perfect.
digital key.
Yep.
It's the same sort of thing. You're going, I'm going to take money out of my hand. I'm going to buy something, and I'm going to put it onto a little box that I bought at Home Depot or Office Depot.
Yeah.
I'm going to use my, in my case, it's maybe I shouldn't say what brand I use, but anyway, the point is, we do this because we have enough trust in the technology and where this is going that we, instead of being afraid, we say, I'm going to act boldly and wisely, follow the rules. And I remember, I'm not advocating for Donald Trump. I don't know who your people are, but I'm just saying, I remember in his first debate with Hillary Clinton, whatever that, however many years ago, um, at least 8 years ago, when she said, you don't pay taxes. And he's like, I know the system.
Right.
I'm just using the system that exists. And if you're a senator, you didn't like it, change it.
Right.
But all I did was follow the rules.
Rules.
And that's what we're talking about here is using corporations, using jurisdictions that are more business friendly, using things like irrevocable trusts if you're big enough, if there's enough justification for it. When we use the systems that are in place that have been designed really honestly for the top 1% of the 1%, but they apply to all of us now. If we will use the tools, we can get the legal protection, we can get the tax deductions, we can get the almost borderless freedom of moving around the globe. We can get all the benefits and we can follow all the rules and we will be safe. When we skirt the rules or try to get around something or short circuit it, then you get into the realm of somewhere between cheating and fraud.
Right.
And we don't need to go there because there's so many good legal things to do that if you follow that, you're going to get the benefit.
100%. I see so many people try to reinvent the wheel and come up with these new like common law, discretionary spendthrift, grantor, and they just throw a bunch of vernacular out and like run it together. And it's this new, just use the things that already exist. These things are in place for a reason. There's very wealthy people that have utilized these for literally more than a century at this point.
Generations after generations.
Yeah. So just go ahead and use the same way that they've done it, and work with people that have the expertise to be able to execute, maintain those structures. Right. And that's what you guys do.
And I want to say one more thing to that point. There are a lot of people, especially the common law. You said common law. Common law stuff is always coming up on people that want to maneuver around the system. Well, if you have a bank, if you have a checking account, you've signed away your common law rights. That happened when you were a kid, or when you went first engaged with the banking world. You said, "I'm going to sign away my common law rights, and agree to statutory laws."
Yeah.
That's what happened. So anybody that says they can go around it is just fooling themselves for a while. And remember, it doesn't really matter because the people who have the statutory laws also have the guns and the prisons.
Yes.
And you can be as right as you want and righteous as you want, but you can maybe do that in a yellow jumpsuit.
Exactly. And that's what I try to communicate to people.
So cheers.
Yeah.
Well, go for it, baby. But I'm 61. I don't want any part of that.
No, we just use there's lots of tools in the system that exist to be able to mitigate taxes and protect yourself and make sure that, you can be very wealthy and do it the right way. And you can argue what the right way is, but like the way that's not going to land you in jail.
There's a reason that you don't see many of the Forbes 400 going to prison, but you do see them using all of these things and everybody gripes, well, they're not paying any taxes. They're paying such low percentage of taxes. They're paying a lot of dollars, but their percentage is very low. And this is what we want I'm not a tax crusader. All I'm saying is I've got tens of thousands of business owner clients, and we just want them to understand what's available. We'll work with their lawyer, their CPA, their representative, or they can work directly just with us. And let's just make sure that wherever you are in your elevation, wherever you are in your path to wealth, that you're using the right tool for now. You're not half baking it, and you're not buying more than you need. You're just moving in phases and stages towards building a good strategy for your wealth.
Yeah. And same for us. When we consult with somebody, we want to do it in the interest of the client, make sure that, we meet them where they are and provide them with the tools and resources that are appropriate for the circumstance that they currently have and what their future goals are, right? How can we grow with you or, make sure that this is positioned to be able to expand into the other opportunities that you will have as your wealth grows later on.
Yeah, I love the expression, begin with the end in mind.
Yes.
You know, Stephen Covey, that I heard him speak when I was a young man, and that burned into my brain, and everything I do now is based on what's the objective, then let's reverse engineer to get to the objective.
What?
And if we do that, and that's what your people are doing right now and what you're helping them with, and, you know, and I seek to do the same thing in my sphere of influence.
Well, let's get into some of the nitty gritty for people. Um, if let's say you do have an LLC in Wyoming, or Nevada, and you don't want the corporate veil to be pierced. You want to make sure that there's no chinks in that armor. What's the whole gambit like? Is it meeting minutes? You have things in your operating agreement you want to adhere to. Can you give like a maybe a high level synopsis of some of the things that people should be looking at to make sure that their stuff's done the right way?
Sure. The single biggest chink in the armor is your corporate minute book. Okay,
Yeah,
that's the biggest one. That's the first one that the auditor
posing.
or yeah, whoever's opposing, whoever your adversary is, first thing you want to do is say if they're coming at the company or something's happened to you personally and they're trying to go through and get not only you but your corporate assets. So that's that corporate veil separating the entity from the personal estate of the shareholders or members. So first thing is, are you holding board meetings? Are you keeping minutes? Are you passing resolutions for decisions? Have you issued, you said an LLC, so have you issued membership? Because, if you don't issue membership, if you got a minute book and there's a bunch of blank stocks or membership certificates in the book and there's an empty stock ledger, if you haven't written out, I'm giving this many membership shares or to Aaron Young or Jake Claver, if you haven't done it, you don't own the company in the eyes of the law, right? And you go, but it's mine. I'm the only one involved. And,
Amen.
the other one is, why would I have a board meeting with myself? It's just me, right? Why? That's dumb. What am I, schizophrenic? Why would I do that? You do it because it's the law. People say LLCs are not obligated to do board formalities, which statutorily is correct. But case law in all 50 states now, case law says even single member LLCs must keep minutes, must keep corporate formalities, minutes, resolutions. This shows that the business, well, not the business, the entity is not
Effort.
your alter ego. It's separate. And if it's separate, it it has different rules than you do. And its problems don't affect you and you don't affect it. But that corporate veil is critical. There's other things too. Letting your company go in and out of good standing, commingling personal and business assets. Oh, I'm at Best Buy today, and I don't have a company card, so I'm just going to write a personal check for this computer, and then I'll just figure it out later. I'll pay myself back, and you're doing this back and forth all the time out of convenience, because in many small business owners' minds or investors' minds, it's just my stuff. I put it in a bucket, but it's mine,
Yeah.
and I don't need to be accountable. These are the understandable but flawed thinkings that get you into losing an audit or losing a lawsuit.
Yeah.
And if you just go, oh, we're going to have a board resolution that says this, that it's okay. I get a credit card. I start a new company. Here's a great way of piercing the corporate veil. Here, I'll use my own cards to demonstrate. So, okay. So this is a card that just got my name on it. Okay. And this is a card I can use for going to the grocery store, going on vacation, doing stuff for Aaron Young and family. Okay. Well, now I'm going to start a business and I'm pretty excited about this thing. And so I want to separate this from the business. So I go online and I get another card, right? And I still use my social security and all that sort of thing, and my credit, but I get a card and it even has the name of the company on it, right? But it's who's responsible? Is the company responsible or I? I'm responsible. Okay. So now I'm very pristine in how I do it. I only use this one for personal and this one for business. If I go to the grocery or to the gas station, I'll put gas in my company car, but if I want a Diet Coke, it'll go on here. Okay. I'm so golden. I never cheat. Then I get a statement at the end of the month for the business card, and I just transfer the money from my business checking account and pay the credit card because it's all business stuff, right? I just commingled. I just pierced my corporate veil. Because if I worked for General Electric, I would use my personal Amex. I'd go do it. I'd get the points. I would do an expense report. I'd turn it into the company. They would reimburse me and I would pay my credit card. But as soon as we quit showing their separation, we've pierced the corporate veil. Now, could we have a board resolution that says, subject to auditing, the company will pay Aaron's personal credit card bill? Sure, we can do that. But if we skip the formalities, the formal part, just like I'll give you one more silly example. I have a farm. I really have a farm. And I have a truck, a big pickup truck. If my brother comes to me and says, Aaron, can I borrow your pickup to go move a couch? And I say, sure, the keys are, in the glove box, right? Because it's sitting out on the farm.
Well, but it's a farm truck.
It's a farm truck. But so I mean, it's not parked on the street. Nobody's going to go to the barn and get the truck, right? They're not really there, by the way, but I'm just saying, go get it. And he goes and uses that farm truck to move his couch. If I was ever challenged on that, that would pierce my corporate veil. Because what right did I have to have a corporate entity or asset be used by an individual with no agreement, no contract, no insurance proof, nothing? If I go to Hertz to rent a truck, they're going to have you sign stuff. There's going to be a contract. But as soon as I go, that doesn't matter because it's mine, then the court says, okay, it's yours. No corporate veil.
Right.
There is no separation. It's the same thing. And these are real world things.
Yeah. So these are great examples because when I did the M&A consulting, I would help people, look to exit their business, and we would go. The first thing we would go through is audit and expense report on their P&L.
Yep.
And I'm like, okay, so your daughter's quinceañera was paid out of the company.
Sure.
I'm like,
all the kids' cell phones are on here.
Yeah.
Your last family vacation where you had one meeting on boat.
Yeah. There's a lot of SDE, seller discretionary earnings that
yeah, we call them add backs, or we call them, I also call them below the line expenses, that are benefits because you're the only owner.
Right. So anyway, there's almost always that, like you said, 95% of businesses don't maintain this separation. There's always something that would allow them to pierce it. So your company, comes along and makes sure that those things stay. And if there are those situations, those are papered agreements that exist, and you have a standard in the way that you operate when somebody outside the company uses resources or for whatever circumstance might arise, right? Is that?
Yeah, we basically, we know that our clients, and we have beginner clients, and we have really, really successful clients, wildly successful clients. I mean, not a lot, but a few people that are in that, billionaire zone. I'm not saying we got Jeff Bezos as a client, but I will tell you, I met one of the most famous Hollywood actors at a fundraiser, and we were doing a photo op, and he asked me what I did, and I told him I own the company, and he said, "Oh, I'm your client." And I said, "Yeah, I know," but I wasn't going to bring it up because we have a lot of famous people that work with us. So, but that's not the point. The point is, what we do is make sure that wherever they are, they have the right structure, they're in the right jurisdiction, they're doing their corporate formalities. If they get appreciated assets, we start saying, here's a plan for separating those. What's your tolerance for risk? What are you willing to lose all at once? Or do we set up another entity and structure it? Then do we use an irrevocable trust? Do we put liens on? Do we create credit lines? What about your business? There's a lot of stuff we do to just help people have their foundation solid. That's what I said at the beginning. If we just make sure the foundational pieces are good, these clever entrepreneurs go figure out how to make money and how to engage in the market. And what we don't want, can I give you a quick story?
Yeah.
A guy, I'm at a hotel, going to the convention center where I'm going to speak in front of, I don't know, about 800 people. And they've got these pop-up banners all along in the convention of the keynoters. And there's me, right? There's my face on one of those pop-ups, right? So I'm alone rushing through the hall because I'm late to be backstage. And as I'm rushing down going, okay, I got to hurry. I'm trying not to sweat before, but I'm like, let's walk fast. And around the corner comes this guy, all hunched over with the crutches, that go up around your biceps, and he's hobbling down. And saint that I am, I hope this guy doesn't talk to me because I'm in a hurry. Sure enough, though, as we get toward each other in the hall, he says, "Aaron, can I talk to you for a minute?" Sure. And he said, "You don't know me, but I'm one of your customers." I said, "Oh, well, thank you so much." Desperately trying not to stare at his broken and bent body. This is a guy that's all crippled up. And you just want to meet him, look him in the eye.
Yep.
He said, "You wouldn't recognize me anyway because I didn't always look like this. I went out, I got in a terrible accident, and I got hurt, and I hurt other people, and I was at fault. Um, they took my home, they took our second home, they took our savings, they took my boat, they took everything I had, but they couldn't take my company because I was one of your clients and I had this stuff in place. And so I could rent a place to live and I could feed my family. And I don't know how to put a dollar figure on it, but it's got to be millions of dollars of value because you showed us and then you helped us just, for $50 a month, keep these records in order." And I've heard this over and I heard from a young lady that threw her arms around me one time at a all women's entrepreneur thing. It was all black women entrepreneurs. And I walk in as the only white person and the only guy in the room. And this lovely 35-year-old or something comes and throws her arms around me, gives me this hug. And I thought, I don't know who this is, but this is a great greeting, for events. And she said, "You don't know me, but I've been a client of yours for about 4 years, and I do your corporate veil thing. And your people are great." But I thought, when it came to a year and it was time to renew it, she said, "Do I really need this? I mean, nobody's sued me or audited me." But it was inexpensive, so I just kept doing it. And then the next year, and she said, "Am I a sucker? Am I throwing money away?" But didn't cost much, and your people are great. So I kept. She goes, "Then I applied to be a double minority government contractor, a black woman, and I wanted to become a contractor for the federal government." She said, "Do you know what the first thing they ask you for? 3 years of minutes and resolutions. They want to see your corporate book to see if you're real."
Right.
And she said, "I had them."
But
So they're both happy stories, but tragic and progressive. By just having your ducks in a row, you get all the benefits. And by not, you lose it all.
yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
Anyway, that's a lot of stories. I don't know if that was more
Sure. No, those are fantastic, and I think that really illustrates for people just the value that doing this stuff has. And a lot of it's simple, it's easy. Not everybody know. You don't know what you don't know, and you might want to work with somebody that does know. Um, they can coach you along for not much money and make sure that stuff's in order so that you have these opportunities or you're able to mitigate the risks if something bad were to happen. Right.
That's right. Yeah, that's right. In our case, I mean, it's done for you. If you'll just spend, 10, 15 minutes every couple of months on the phone with your rep,
Yeah.
they'll pull the information out of you, create all the necessary documents, send them, you sign, put them in the book.
Go.
Done.
I love that, man. Well, thank you for your time on this, and I think this has been really educational my audience for sure. We talk about a lot of things when it comes to setting up your estate and mitigating taxes and all the things specific for digital assets, but all these things are just standard corporate things most of the time. It's just applied to this asset class. If people want to reach out and engage with Laughlin, what does that look like?
Well, you could go to laughlinusa.com, or you can just, you could email me and I'll make sure the right person.
There you
I always do this on podcasts and interviews. I'll say, "I'll give you an email address." And because I know almost nobody will use it, but I hope they do because uh, I hate it when people come to us what I call event driven. They've already been through the miserable experience. They've been through the partnership breakup. They've been through the lawsuit. They've been through the audit. They found out what they didn't know. And they're like, "My goodness, that can never happen again." And so anyway, Aaron Young, Aaron, Aaron Young at Laughlin USA. And I promise you, we'll get you to the right people. And doesn't mean you have to become a client. Just find out what you don't already know. And if there is a solution that maybe is missing, maybe see if there is a little chink. Let's get it repaired now
Right.
before you need it.
Problem. Yeah. Well, and we're going to be using you guys, for our services on the back end. We've developed a great relationship, so we'll continue to maintain our clients stuff with you
Thank you.
guys, which we're excited about. Because I think this is a huge value add that we're able to bring to people, in working with you and making sure that stuff is structured the right way and continues to stay that way, so that they don't have problems, or maybe they get those extra opportunities, like that other young lady did, right?
Yeah, that's right. And especially for your audience, the people that are watching your videos, Jake, I can't say it strongly enough. At least this is my opinion. I know we can't give financial advice, but my opinion is just what you've been saying, which is we're in the midst of a seismic shift. The landscape is going to change, and the vast majority of people will not. They'll just be surprised,
Right.
or they will be oblivious. They won't even notice that it'll become enough of a normal thing, just like using a debit card instead of using a check became a normal thing. Tap instead of sliding became a normal thing. Many people, but they're not going to benefit from it.
Right.
But those people, and I have to believe it's your audience, that's going to be among the greatest beneficiaries.
Sure.
Um, do not let this historic wealth opportunity get screwed up because you tried to go that rule probably doesn't apply to me, or I'll get to it later. Let's make sure that the basics are covered, because you're probably going to become a very, very wealthy, and wealthy, like, dream of wealth, the money that only people like sit there and play with a calculator. And it's not going to take a very big move to create some real significant wealth. And if it makes any of the big moves that they're talking about, I, I don't even know how to comprehend how there could be a whole class of new people coming in to having millions or tens or hundreds of millions of dollars. Uh, but it will be phenomenal for the economy as that money gets deployed.
For sure.
As people start to spend a little bit of it and buy other businesses, create other opportunities out of newfound, or you know, out of the capital gain of their
And the
next.
GDP that we'll be able to create, and like, most of our clients have a really significant philanthropic focus. They want to give, they want to create, value in society or in their community, or help a specific cause, which is beautiful. But they also want to do really well for themselves and their family, and they want to protect that and leave a legacy, right? And you can't do that if you get your entities on LegalZoom and Nolo Trust online and don't know what you're doing or execute things correctly. There's a lot of administrative, boring stuff that needs to be adhered to in order to make sure it's done right. So,
Yeah, they may as well go to their own Secretary of State and do it without paying anything other than the state fee, but
right,
they will be incomplete. I'll say one thing to that point. I know we're trying to close.
you're good.
If you if you go to these cheaper free filing services and you get back, okay, you're filed in whatever state, and here are your articles of incorporation, or articles of organization. Um, that's equivalent to, I'll just use one that I like because you see I've got a bunch of Disney stuff behind me. So if I go to Disney World and I spend $120 on a ticket to go to the Magic Kingdom, and then instead of walking through the tunnels and going into the Magic Kingdom, onto Main Street, USA, if I go to the golf course or the beach or back to the hotel to take a nap or whatever, did I buy a ticket? Did I pay the fee? I did. That's what you do with these filing services. I did. Did I get the value that I bought? No, I did not. I did not. And that's the mistake. So many people who've gone the cheapest route and just they're filed and they're even paying their fee every year, but they've don't have an operating agreement. They've never done an organizational meeting, never had a board meeting, never issued membership. They've never done anything that finishes it. And so folks, if that's you, go to Jake, come to me, do whatever, but don't just go, well, it probably doesn't apply to me, unless you're willing to risk everything for being casual.
Yeah. Well, again, just want to say thank you for taking the time out. I know you're very busy, um, crushing it over there. Hopefully, as you get up into your years, I don't know when that's going to happen. You'll be able to slow down a little bit, but I don't think you will. Let people know about the book you just wrote. We didn't even talk about that.
Oh, thank you. Do I have a copy of it here handy? I don't. But it's called Unshackled, and you get it at Barnes and Noble or Amazon or anywhere they sell books. It's by Aaron Scott Young, and it's basically I had all these people that were paying me $25,000 a day to come in and help them, and I'm talking about Procter and Gamble, WebMD, CoverGirl, Max Factor. I mean, big companies. And I thought they can't really get a meaningful shift. They might get a couple of nuggets, but they're not going to meaningfully change in a 1 or 2 day session. They're paying me. I appreciate the check, but it felt a little bit unfair and unfulfilling.
Didn't deliver the value that you felt. Yeah.
So I created a course about 8 years ago, and we've had about 600 companies from all over the world, public companies, private companies, little companies, big companies, Indian reservations, all kinds of stuff, go through the course. And then one of my students who's in Romania, who's got a tech company, he was 28 when I met him, doing about 1.5 million a year. After 4 years of following what I taught him, he was doing 50 million a year.
Gosh.
And he's like, how do we get a book to Eastern Europe? Because they can't afford the $7,500 for the course, but they could afford $20 for a book. And so we wrote a book that was basically, here's the course and how at that point, a 50-something American business services guy and a 20-something Romanian tech guy use the same system to get the same results. So it's what I taught him, how he implemented, and what our sort of philosophies are about running companies. I've built over 36 multi-million-dollar companies that I don't have to go to work at. You said in my as I get up in years, maybe I'll slow down. People would be very surprised how much free time I have.
Love that.
Yeah,
If
because
you do it the right way, then you've got owners and operators, and there's a difference, right?
anything I do, I'm busy, but I'm only busy doing what I want to do, not what anybody else is telling me to do. Everything is on my agenda, and that's a freaking cool place to live. And your people, if they're not already there, will be there soon. And if they are there, and they're frustrated and they're having to still look at their phone when they're sitting by the pool, or have to take the Zoom meeting while the family's on the roller coaster, um, maybe go check out the book Unshackled and see if maybe my formula would work for you.
I love that. Well, again, thank you for taking the time. You let everybody know where they can reach you, and we'll leave that in the show notes below along with the book. And yeah, maybe we'll have you back at a later date. But thank you again for coming on.
You bet, Jake. Thanks for having me.